fellow seekers and guardians. How are you guys doing? In this video, we're going to talk about, or we're going to see the gamers article of ki- the Kingdom Hearts games. They're going to rank them from the worst to the best, and mainly I'm very interested. So let's get into this. So the first Kingdom Hearts game we're going to go to cover is Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, which at the time of this video is the newest entry of the Kingdom Hearts series. It was released October 14th, 2020, and it's on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC. And the story is roughly 9 hours. Melody of Memory is a rhythm game that takes you on a musical memory lane on the journey so far. Narrated by Kairi and retells the events of the series up to Kingdom Hearts 3. If you're a fan of rhythm games and the soundtrack of the Kingdom Hearts series, you'll enjoy the game, but it doesn't have much to offer. However, the game does include exclusive cutscenes that hints at how Sora will be found after his disappearance in the Kingdom Hearts 3. As is tradition for the series, essential information is hidden within a seemingly unimportant game, so even if you're not at all into rhythm games, it's still worth searching up these cutscenes. Yeah, because like 90% of the game is, hey, this is what happened before this game, and you it's not until like the very last world where we get new content in terms of story. That content's like 30, 40 minutes worth. And is Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory worth the buy? Again, if you're into rhythm based games, it is. If you guys like the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack and don't feel like having to like go on YouTube, it's also worth the buy. Um, if you're looking for that Kingdom Hearts game to play until the next Kingdom Hearts game comes out, I think it's also worth a buy. But if you're not looking, if you don't want another game that pretty much tells you a recap, that maybe or recapping what happened before, maybe it's not worth a buy. Maybe just looking at like the final worlds for the Kingdom Melody of Memory cutscenes, maybe a better management of your time. So it all depends on your preference. I was very skeptical about getting it because it was really the best game. It was mostly recap, and one of my good friends he bought it for me for like Christmas or my birthday. It's so much fun. Yes, it was still a recap, and for someone like me, the recapping part may not be necessary because remember everything, but still a fun game. So I'll recommend. Union X released on July 18th of 2013. Platforms that is on is Android, iOS, and Fire OS, and the campaign is roughly 20 hours. So, while some Kingdom Hearts games have launched on some questionable platforms in the past, now almost all of them can be played on one console. The exception, however, is Kingdom Hearts Union X. Releasing it as a mobile game simply cannot be forgiven for most. Like most mobile games, Union X is largely considered a cash grab that focuses on draining wallets and over interesting gameplay. It's also widely considered the worst Kingdom Hearts game. I played a little bit. I can see where that gets up the worst Kingdom Hearts game. I had to delete that game because it was getting addicting. And I was eating up all my time when I needed to like focus on other parts of my life. So I had to like delete it off my phone. It was so painful. Um, Players have slogged through all 800 something quests are then drip fed the essential story updates a few months to keep them playing. Every few months to keep them playing. In the meantime, they are offered nothing but repetitive filter missions and a constant shifting meta that forces you into spending your money in hopes of keeping up. I can see that. Recoded, which was released on October 7th of 2010. The platforms this one is on a DS and or what came out on, and the story is about 16 hours. With arguably the most uninteresting story in the series, I agree. Recoded features a data version of Sora who essentially replaced the majority of the events that transpired in the first game. The story is almost entirely inconsequential and does little to advance the overall narrative of the series. Also bears that it also bears what can be seen as the deterrent being initially limited to mobile. Sorry, two mouses is confusing. Recoded was first released episodically as a Japan exclusive before being remade for a wider audience on the DS. However, it was only the cutscenes from the game that has made it to the PlayStation collection. I say PlayStation says PlayStation 4 like say because it came out I believe on the PlayStation 3 and Recorded was on the 2.5 edition. And then they brought the 1.5, 2.5 collections onto the PlayStation 4. And they had the 2.8 edition. And it was like all jammed in one. And it's called, I forgot what it's called. I have it. Like, the full journey or something like that. I'm too lazy to go downstairs at the moment, so that's why. Yeah, that's why. Anyways, I know true Kingdom Hearts fan, right? Without any gameplay to supplement the repetitive and uneventful story, it quickly becomes a chore to sit through, and struggles to hold a candle to the standards of the other Kingdom Hearts titles. That said, it does have the line, "Mickey, it's Riku. They put the bugs in him." So there's always a silver lining. Yeah, because I streamed Recoded, and it's boring. And they are right, it is a chore to sit through. It is really boring, in my opinion. And I can see where they mean it does little to advance the story a bit. So I don't know if you guys can. I think Recode is like that one game that you can easily skip and not be lost in future Kingdom Hearts entries. Because at the moment, none of the Kingdom Hearts games really make puns or references that I can remember to Recoded. So, yeah. UX Dark Road was released on the Android iOS. It was released on July 18th, 2013, and the story is 40 hours. There we go. For a mobile game, Dark Road has a lot of content. It also gives you a completely new insight into the origins story of the series' main villain, Xehanort. You play as Xehanort in his youth as Scala and Kalam, where he, alongside young Arrakis, must search for the lost masters. As you traverse across various Disney worlds, Xehanort begins to question his alignment with the light and looks towards darkness. Dark Road's strength lies in story and unique perspective. Before this, Xehanort was somewhat of a mysterious figure, with little known about who he was before his fall to the darkness. This game has a great story to tell. It's just a shame it's trapped within a mobile game and microtransactions. Yeah, microtransactions can make any game frustrating. So, 358 over 2 days. Released on May 30th, 2009. was released on the Nintendo's DS and it was roughly 27 hours in terms of story. In a similar fashion to Recoded, 358 over 2 days was cinematically remade for the PlayStation 3 and 4 and excluded any gameplay. However, unlike Recorded, it had an interesting story that was actually important and necessary to understanding a lot of what happens in Kingdom Hearts 2. The downside was that for some reason it was released after Kingdom Hearts 2. Oh, yeah. So you kind of already knew what would happen to like Riku and Sora. But I don't think that's a downside. Because it introduced Xion and it brought more heart to Roxas and Axel. So I think if anything, even though it did come out after Kingdom Hearts 2, it gave us more heart. If that makes sense. Giving you control of Roxas and fighting alongside members of Organization 13 instead of against them, that was fun and exciting concept. But was a letdown by the repetitive and lengthy missions. The usual fluid, fast-paced combat of previous titles also failed to translate over to the clunkier handheld Nintendo DS. Despite this, the character and story of 358 over 2 days are its saving grace, and the cutscene movie is just as moving. Dream Drop Distance. It was released on March 29th, 2019. The campaign was roughly 23 hours, and it was released on the Nintendo 3DS. The Kingdom Hearts series often gets a bad rap for its story being totally devoid of all comparison, and with Dream Drop Distance, this is very much the case. It's as though the developers didn't want to take risk the story becoming too easy to understand, and so to cement its reputation as a convoluted mess, stretch the boundaries of the coherency of the game. On top of the bizarre story, there is a near-forced interaction with Dream Eater's companions, completely ruining its pacing, which was already difficult enough to keep track. However, Dream Drop Distance does offer a lot of fun gameplay, but the gameplay alone is not enough to carry the game. And it's a fun game, essentially. The story is good. I think the worst aspect for me for Dream Drop Distance was I played a little bit of Dream Drop Distance, watched the cutscenes. I haven't completed the game. The reason why I haven't completed the game is because they force you to switch between Sora and Riku. And it's frustrating when you're like in a boss battle and it forces you to switch from like Riku to Sora or vice versa. And then once you switch back, you have to start that boss fight from the very beginning. And it got so annoying that I just rage quit. So Dream Drop Distance I haven't beat because of that. So in terms of like story, Recorded is the worst. But in terms of gameplay, in my opinion, Dream Drop Distance is the worst. Only because of the they're forcing you to switch between Sora and Riku. Kingdom Hearts Regen Memories. Gen Memories was originally released onto the Game Boy, but then they brought it back. They brought it over to PlayStation 2, 3, and 4. And Regen Memories was the first Kingdom Hearts game I bought. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 I played, but those were my brother's copies. So yeah. And it was released on March 29th, 2007, and the story was roughly around 23 hours, so nearly a day's worth. The second installment in the Kingdom Hearts series, Chain of Memories, saw the greatest departure in terms of gameplay from the other titles, introducing a real-time card-based battle system. This came as a massive shake-up from the usual free-flow combat that can be difficult to come to grips with, but once it's figured out, it makes for a unique, fun, and challenging way to fight. I think it's like at the time it was okay to like try to switch things up because it was still pretty early in the Kingdom Hearts series. So like Kingdom Hearts 2, Birth by Sleep, Birth by Sleep Supplementary Pass is pretty much the other games that like Kingdom Hearts 2 and Beyond wasn't out yet. So it was pretty early on. So I can like understand them wanting to try out a new system. It didn't hold well with fans, but still, I can see them wanting to. Anyways, the story of Chain of Memories is also a good one, introducing a lot of important new characters, being Sora's first clash with Organization 13, and setting up for Kingdom Hearts 2. You are also able to take control of Riku for an entirely separate storyline. However, the game's biggest flaw was again its repetitiveness. It offers no worlds, and its two separate stories are stressed out between revisits and these same worlds. Playing them back to back quickly became a chore. I have to disagree. Like, it becoming a chore because it was fun. It was sure we went into old like other worlds that we went into in Kingdom Hearts 1, with the exception of Deep Jungle. But it was still fun. I think for me the worst part of Chain of Memories is when you reach into each of the worlds, you have to like there's no like voice acting in the worlds. You have to like read. That's like the most reading based Kingdom Hearts game on the console ever. And I don't mind really reading. But when it comes to games, I would like to hear a bit more audio. You know, if that makes sense. And granted that I did have audio, and you can hear the people talking, but I don't know. I must be lazy and not want to have to read as much. That makes sense. Anyways, the story of Chain of Memories. Okay, so Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage, released on January 12th, 2017, came out on the PlayStation 4 and was roughly 3 hours. It's if you play on normal, you can knock or easy mode, I should say. Then you can knock the story out in about an hour and 30 minutes, give or take. 3 hours I can see normal, but if you're playing on like easy, it's an hour and 30 minutes. It's debatably the quickest Kingdom Hearts game I played. Essentially a prologue to Kingdom Hearts 3. Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage, returned to the series to the familiar fluid combat system of the mainline titles, but this was made even more enjoyable thanks to the graphics and visual effects, which had been elevated to a truly stunning level never before associated with the series. While most playthroughs only take around 3 to 4 hours, making a fragmentary passage undoubtedly the shortest game in the series, yet it still manages to deliver a compelling story that's meaningful to the entirety of the series. Yes. And I feel like it also made Aqua's return that much more badass. So Kingdom Hearts, released on March 8th, 2002, released on the PlayStation 2 in roughly around 29 hours. Despite having the difficult job of blending Disney with Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts kicked the series into gear with an incredible first entry. It opened up fantastic worlds filled with immediately recognizable and relatable characters, all while telling what is probably the most concise story in the series. Amen to that. For the game that launched in 2002, Kingdom Hearts holds up extremely well. The design of the small worlds does an excellent job of making them seem bigger than they actually are, although at the expense of being perplexingly difficult to navigate, but with a combat system way ahead of its time and being able to utilize it against classic Disney villains and the instantly iconic Heartless, this was a game unlike any other, and remains one of the best Kingdom Hearts games. Agreed. Kingdom Hearts 2, released on January 25th, 2019, released on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, roughly about 29 hours to complete the main campaign. I don't know if they're including the Remind DLC. Because the Remind DLC takes about 3-ish hours to complete, so about 32 hours if you include the Remind DLC. The incredibly visual spectacle and the sheer amount of fun packed into Kingdom Hearts 3 gives it the edge over the first Kingdom Hearts. This game is simply beautiful to behold. The worlds were crafted with as much detail as the Disney and Pixar films that originated from and are some of the best realizations of the movie in a video game to date. But with that said, the Kingdom Hearts series has become a victim of its own design. Many of the games suffer from attempting to tie in the story it wants to tell with the narrative of the vibrant Disney worlds. Where the gameplay excels, the story falls short. There's a distinct lack of meaningful story moments or boss fights throughout the game until you reach its closing stages. The Remind DLC added more to the game, including additional story content and bosses, which helps to elevate Kingdom Hearts 3 to further heights than it achieved at launch. Agreed. Birth by Sleep, released on January 9th, 2010, released on the PSP, and it's roughly 30 hours. The high gripping, emotional, and surprisingly dark story told by Birth by Sleep makes this game stand out from the rest. Playing with 3 characters, Taro, Aqua, and Ventus, you explore worlds set before the events of all other Kingdom Hearts titles, granting a lot of answers while also creating its fair share of questions. The game also shares one of the most heartfelt scenes throughout the entire series. As you journey through Birth by Sleep and experience the stories of all 3 characters, the same roles will be revisited each time. However, the game does exceptionally well to avoid repetition by exploring different areas, fighting different enemies, unlocking unique characters, special abilities, and each time revealing more of the game Peogant story. And I think Birth by Sleep is like amongst the best, for sure. Of the Kingdom Hearts games. And now, for what they can, I guess, consider as the best Kingdom Hearts game, which I have to agree, Kingdom Hearts 2. Released on December 22nd, 2005. It was originally released on the PlayStation 2, and the campaign is roughly 32 hours. While the original release of the game in 2005 may not have ranked as highly, it has since been vastly improved upon with a heap of the post-game content and improvements introduced with the final mix version. Unlike any game, Kingdom Hearts 2 is not without its flaws, but all are easily overlooked, with characters that are easily to become attached to. Some of the greatest villains and boss fights throughout the entire series, and a combat system that takes everything that the first game and doubles down. Kingdom Hearts 2 remains the pinnacle of the series so far. I agree. And that's like one of the most iconic battles in history, the Battle of Hollow Bastion. The Battle of Hollow Bastion, man. Man, it's every single time I play Kingdom Hearts 2, I look forward to the Battle of Hollow Bastion. That's like one of my favorite moments of Kingdom Hearts in general. And also maybe my favorite because it has The Lion King. The Lion King is my favorite Disney movie. And I mean the animated movie, not the remake that came out in 2019. So like, being able to play as a lion essentially, helping Simba and his friends defeat Scar and, well, essentially his ghost. Ooh, that was so cool. It was almost like living out my childhood bucket list to meet Simba and them. It was so much fun. And each time I play Kingdom Hearts 2, it's like I go back in a way. Even though it's Final Mix, I haven't played Final Mix until the PlayStation 3. But even then, it's like me going back to being a child a bit as I'm playing it when I first played it. Because I get this, even though I know what's going to happen, I get the same sense of enjoyment, same sense of like fulfillment, and go along with a emotional ride. And kind of like with Kingdom Hearts 1 too, is you can see the same way too. But like, Kingdom Hearts 2 for me is the best, and it's my personal favorite. And Kingdom Hearts 2, fun fact, is the first Kingdom Hearts game that I honestly completed. Then comes Chain of Memories. Then comes Kingdom Hearts 1. I know that's a weird order to how to be Kingdom Hearts stories, but thankfully I had my brother who played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, or Kingdom Hearts 1 before I did. So I knew what was going to happen in Kingdom Hearts 2. And by the time I played Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, I already played Kingdom Hearts 2. So, but it's the Little Mermaid world. I really enjoy the Little Mermaid world in Kingdom Hearts 2. Or the musical. Admittedly. So, there's that. So, that's where my brain's at. So, I probably would have, like, shifted some of these around a bit. Like, a few of these Kingdom Hearts games around a bit. But overall, I think I do agree with their consensus of what constitute as the, because leads to like greatest. Um, for me, Recode is the least good game of Kingdom Hearts, so I would have had that in the place of Melody and Memories. But that's just me. Like I said, for the most part, I agree with this list of like what's the least greatest game to the what's the least good game and what's the best game. If that makes sense. But with that said, love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. And may your hearts be your guiding key. Have a wonderful day.